Good afternoon, everyone. So the last session is always a challenge, especially for the moderator. But we have a very interesting topic over here. And I am very grateful to the organizers, Times Now and GSA, for having me here to moderate this stellar panel on accelerated and sustained climate action for improved access to water services, water use efficiency, and sustainable water resource management. So before we hear from our panelists, we have been listening to different speakers in the past sessions, but I would like to place certain facts based on which we can build up the conversation. So as per our analysis, India is among the 17 countries in the world which is facing extremely high water stress, with close to 80% of the population which is exposed to water-stressed conditions. Aqueduct Water Atlas, it shows that more than half of the groundwater bore wells are witnessing decline in the water availability over the past 15 years. As far as water efficiency is concerned, water use efficiency, it is also a very critical parameter. And as we all understand that India is mostly an agrarian state, with more than 80% of the water consumption going to the agriculture sector, which in itself is characterized by low efficiency and high water losses. So there's a research which shows that if the irrigation efficiency is increased just by a meager 10%, it can lead to a saving of close to 170 billion cubic meters of water, which is enough per year, which is enough to meet the domestic consumption needs of over 500 million people. Now, we can see the scale of the impacts as well as the scale of the benefits which certain solutions can lead to. So with these facts, let us now move to our esteemed speakers in this session. Nitin, the first question which we would like you to respond to is that in your past research, you have talked about recycling and reuse of treated water, treated wastewater, and you have also proposed certain guidance around that to ULBs, how those measures can be adopted. So if you can enlighten us with what are some of the key challenges in adoption of these systems, and also if you can provide certain opportunities which are there to scale some of the solutions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this question, and also for inviting us to this very important discussion. And since this is a fireside chat, so I need to be a bit informal as well. I think there is no straightforward, kind of an answer to what you just asked. But let me be very quick on narrating some of the facts which are based on the research that we have done. If we look at the quantum of this wastewater, what we call, coming from the domestic areas, and by the way, it is no longer called as wastewater, but used water, to make a change in the way the policies and the stakeholders see this water. India in 2021, urban areas alone were generating about 72,000 million liters per day of used water. We had capacity to treat about 44% of it, and about 28% was the actual treatment. Even if we go with the installed capacity, and we would have been able to create a market case for this used water, we would have made an earning of around 630 million Indian rupees on a daily basis. Now, you mentioned agriculture being the main consumer of water. Specifically, if we go around the suburban and the peri-urban areas in cities, you will find that a lot of agriculture actually happens by mixing fresh water with some kind of a treated or untreated sewage that comes out. So suppose if the treated used water is supplied for agriculture, that would have generated a revenue of about 900 billion Indian rupees per annum. So this is the kind of a market and the economic sizing of this sector is. Now, why it is, kind of not able to scale up? There are certain things, and maybe I would just highlight 2 or 3 in the interest of the time. I think the foremost is that, not all states have a policy or a plan to, mainstream the used water. So if I talk about India level, around 10 states in India, they have some sort of reuse policy. Last year, at the national level also, we came up with a guideline for safe reuse of treated water. But then many states, they still have to adopt it. Second is that, you have to create demand for this water, right? That is very important. Now, how we create demand? In most of our cities, the water is imported. Delhi is getting water from Ganga, Indus, Yamuna basin. Bangalore is getting water from outside. Hyderabad is getting water from outside. Jaipur is importing water from outside. But we are not ready to price that water. We continue to supply to the urban household at a very subsidized rate. In Delhi, it is supplied free of cost, at least if you are consuming up to 20 kiloliters. So the point is, you can extend the subsidies and you can provide it for free to the people who need it. Who are really in need, who are really below the economic pyramid, and you need to provide them. But specifically people who can afford to pay it. I take my example. I can afford to pay it, but still I'm not paying for it. So if I'm not paying for a fresh water, so I have no kind of an incentive to find alternative sources for meeting my non-potable uses. It can be just, water for the garden that I might have, even water to wash the car that I have. So there is no demand because of the pricing structure that we have. And the third foremost thing here is the behavior. Now, how many people in this room are ready to make use of treated used water for even non-potable purposes? So that is a behavior, that is a behavior part here. And for example, in Singapore, when they started sale of the treated used water, they came up with a terminology called as new water. So it's just targeting the behavior of the individual, that it's a new water. It's not a sewage or a used water. So something like that needs to happen, and I'm glad that the national guidelines, which I just mentioned, they were released last year. So they replaced the term wastewater with used water, and sewage treatment plants, they are now called as Nirmal Jal Kendra. So that is, the kind of a change that we have to make from both the technical, financial, and the social side, if we really have to mainstream the reuse of treated used water.
Thank you so much, Nitin. Very pertinent issues raised: governance, policy reforms, and behavioral aspects. With this, I'll move over to you, Rahul. You coming from NIUA, and you have been working on the Namami Gange program. Now, many Indian cities, big or small, have rivers flowing from within their jurisdiction, or maybe from very close by to those cities. And because of the rampant urbanization, encroachments are happening, there are pollution which is happening, these water bodies, as one of the speakers in the earlier sessions was saying, the fresh water is getting contaminated by the wastewater. So what some of the low cost solutions and socially inclusive solutions or best practices, if you can throw some light on that. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Saransh. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for inviting me for this session. So I would say when we talk about the low cost technology, I think that itself is not feasible in today's time. It's more of a myth, because if we now kind of go a few years back when we are rapidly urbanizing, but at that point of time water was not, like, there was no scarcity of water. the amount of wastewater that gets generated was less. So, eventually it would flow into the river, but river would have its own self-cleansing capacity to take care of that. But, and at that point of time, what we typically call this low-cost treatment technologies, which are basically nature-based technologies, those are not advanced, mechanized, energy-intensive technologies, what we see as on today. So at that point of time, it was still okay to have those nature-based technologies in the form of phytorid or planted gravel filter or oxidation ponds. Those kind of technologies would still work because the volume of wastewater which would get generated is less and not having high pollution load. So at that point of time, it was okay. Come today, and then, we are talking about high density cities, high volumes of wastewater being generated. And so those nature-based treatment technologies are not sufficient enough to kind of handle that kind of volumes if we see today. And that's why we moved for more advanced treatment technologies, typically because they would require a smaller footprint vis-a-vis your nature-based solution, which are maybe low on capex and opex, but then, the land requirement is very high. So we go to our semi-urban areas or rural areas, there it might still work. But if we talk typically about cities, we are not having that kind of liberty today that land can be provided for installing nature-based treatment solutions. So that's not going to happen. So now when we are now coming to our program, so we are working with the National Mission for Clean Ganga, in which we are now already working with we have a River Cities Alliance in which 144 river cities are members, and the whole idea is to make this cities more water resilient and also making the cities responsible towards river. And one of the major aspects of taking that responsibility is ensuring that the pollution from the cities is not going back into the rivers. So that's where Namami Gange is investing a lot, this Namami Gange program. They are making a lot of sewage treatment plant, pumping station to ensure that, the wastewater is treated properly. But then that's the conventional side of it. One size will not fit all. Big cities would have that kind of capacities and funding so that they can install those infrastructure. But when we come to small and medium-sized towns, they wouldn't have those kind of capacities as well as funds to do it. So what is required is that you would require a combination of approaches, what so-called, the on-site and off-site. So on-site, when we say sanitation, is more about fecal sludge management, in which we have toilets attached to septic tank, and then we collect the sludge from that septic tank and treat, and then discharge it into the open. So yeah, so that's where we come into picture, and then we have now building the capacities of the cities that unless we achieve the golden standard. Golden standard means every household having a toilet which is connected to a sewer system, and wastewater is collected properly and treated in STP, and then we let it discharge into the rivers. Until we reach there, we would require a combination of such approaches. So some small cities and towns where there is no sewer system at all, they will have to go for fecal sludge and septic management. That means we collect the sludge and treat it properly. And maybe only the grey water from your kitchen and bathroom is taken to one place, and there we can still use this nature-based treatment technologies because the pollution load is less. Then we can also think about our peri-urban areas where we can have decentralized treatment solution, like for townships and smaller cluster of households where we can have dewards, again a nature-based approach. There we can take care of your black water and grey water, and we can use the water around that same place so that we recycle it, and we are not burdening on the city infrastructure requirement in terms of laying extensive sewer network and putting down STPs. Now today, if we are look into what Namami Gange is doing, so many cities are now coming up with interception and diversion projects. That means, just at the point of where entire wastewater from the cities is discharged into the rivers, it is being tapped, and then you put a parallel sewer network along the length of the river or a drain, and then you take it to a STP and you treat it. So I think unless we reach to this point where every city is sewered and we have STPs which can take care of the entire volume of wastewater generated, I think it has to be a combination of various approaches, and I feel that this entire concept of low-cost technology might not be feasible. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rahul. We understand that NBS requires a lot of other things as well. So, decentralized approaches can become feasible. Moving to you, Noah. So we have, from the two speakers, we have talked about access to water, water resource management. But water use efficiency is something in which, Israel is a pioneer in. So if you can enlighten us, how has Israel successfully increased the water use efficiency across different sectors, and what transformative practices, from Israel could be applied to the Indian context? Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for having me here. It was very inspiring hearing all the speakers before me and all the initiatives that are now being discussed. And as you said, water is not only from the national perspective, it's also behavior. It's also, everyone has its own part in water use and water conservation. But in Israel, government a few decades ago acknowledged that we are facing water crisis, and Israel is located in a dry region, and almost 60% of the country is desert, and we had only one water source, natural water source, and we understood that there is a time that we need to find different water sources. And what was being created is the circular water economy, and it has 4 steps. The first is bringing fresh water for domestic use, mostly from desalination plants. Almost 80% of country potable water is sourced by desalination. Then the second step is urban water management and controlling non-revenue water, because in Israel, water is a valuable, expensive source. We pay for the treating of the drinking water, and we pay for the treating of wastewater for agricultural purposes, which is the third step in the water economy. And last but not least is more efficient agriculture irrigation methods, like, of course, you've heard drip irrigation and more. So some data, as I said, about 80% of the country's potable water sourced from desalination, and almost all water is transferred to wastewater treatment. And purification is done in wastewater facilities that are operated on an economical basis. They sell the water for the farmers. And the wastewater is also being purified to different levels, meaning that you can use for different crops, different levels of purified water. Of course, comprehensive water pricing mechanism in Israel incentives conservation and efficient utilization of water resources. As Nitin here said, if you don't pay for water, you don't understand the value of it. So it's also something that in Israel we recognize. And Israel also decentralized water management approach, including practice like drip irrigation in agriculture and advanced leak detection system in urban areas. Sustainability, minimize water loss, and enhance overall efficiency.
Thank you, Noah. I think you have comprehensively covered, the different aspects as far as enhancing water use efficiency is concerned. A lot to learn also for us here in India. I would take I've been, getting intel from the organizers that we need to end. We have time, the time is up. But just in maybe 30 seconds, and this is an open question for each one of you to respond. One top idea which is feasible, which is actionable and implementable, which you would suggest for, building resilience of the water sector in the country?
See, it has to be a graded approach. I mean, there won't be any silver bullet to address this. What I would like to highlight specifically is one study that we just launched 2 days back. What we have done is that for the first time we have come up with what we call as a municipal use water management index, where we have tried to categorize 500 plus urban local bodies in India from 10 states which have reuse policy in terms of their performance on used water or wastewater management. Now, if one looks at this report, you will get idea that which are those areas where they need to strengthen, which are the areas where they need to improve, which are the area they should prioritize their intervention. So this is something which can be very useful. This report is available online in public domain. And if you want a copy of it, I do have some postcard which you can, it has a QR code, you can scan and get the copy. So I think it will be good if people have a look rather than me speaking about it.
Thank you. Noah?
I would say that creating demand for treated water, wastewater for agriculture, and raising awareness of public awareness of using this water and the cost of this water comparing to fresh water. I think this is the best practice.
Thank you. So recycling water, public awareness and sensitization. Rahul?
Yeah. I guess the top point is definitely as we move ahead, it's going to be the reuse of treated used water, because in coming time, fresh water is going to be scarce, and I think this is has a huge potential. Just imagine of every 100 liters that comes to the city, today we are just sending back 80 liters back into the open without reusing it. When that comes into system, how much that can address the water security. But just another point, I feel that since, as NIUA, we are working with cities, I feel that, the cities to have understanding, what kind of water they have and where it is used. So for a city to have a city water balance plan, I think that is very important in coming time for them to, make decisions that how much water they have and how much water they can allocate for different competing sectors. So I think if you see Amrut 2.0 guidelines clearly specifies all the cities to prepare their own city water balance plan. But it's still kind of very preliminary. They don't take into consideration this major volume of used water which is available for the cities to replace your non-potable various uses in the city. So once that kind of comes into picture, they also know how much groundwater, how much they are extracting and how much it is recharged. So unless they have a good understanding of that, they will not be able to make, a wise decision. So I think as we move ahead, cities will have to, work really hard on preparing this water balance or the water budget plan. And I think that would really help them to make them more water resilient and more water secure in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Rahul. So water budgeting to be an integral part for planning for water resources at any level or any tier of the government. So with this, we come to the end of the panel discussion, and I would take this opportunity to thank the esteemed speakers for sparing time and being with us here and enlightening us with the thoughts. Thank you so much. Can we have a huge round of applause? Thank you.